Hello, this is for a video discussion post for Vulnerable Populations, Week 6, Unit 5. Some resources that I would find for my elderly family member first would be home health care, whether they needed PT, OT, or maybe a CNA or a nurse to come in a couple times a day or for a short period of time. And one program that I found that's in the Omaha area is called the Friendship Program. It's adult daycare and services that are provided. It's services that provide care and supervision of adults. Ages served is 18 to 99. The adult daycare is for people who are 55 years or older, and they must be independent in their mobility and toileting, and they must be able to feed themselves. Then they also have a day rehab program that services people who are 18 and older who are independent in daily living skills. And cost varies. There's not one, no one will be denied for financial reasons from this program. And yeah, it was just a little bit I found. They help take care of you during the day and help provide a friend to be around. And I didn't choose to look into like a live-in maid because for most people that is not accessible. And moving on to the 3 nursing homes that I chose was St. Joseph Villa Nursing Center, which I will be referring to as St. Joe Villa, Millard Hillcrest, and Rose Blumkin Jewish Home, and I'll refer to that as Rose Blumkin. So the overall rating for the facility of St. Joe Villa was 1 star. The overall rating for Millard Hillcrest was 2 stars, and the overall rating for Rose Blumkin was 5 stars. And for St. Joe Villa, for the health and fire safety inspections, was rated at 2 stars. Millard Hillcrest was rated at 2 stars, and then Rose Blumkin was rated at 4 stars. And the latest health inspection survey at St. Joe Villa was 7/21/2023. Millard Hillcrest was 8/03/2023, and Rose Blumkin was 9/6/2023. And there were health citations at all of these facilities. St. Joe Villa had 6 citations, and some of them included abuse and conflict between residents. There were several incidents of residents trying to kiss other residents of the opposite gender non-consentingly, and aggressive words between the residents. And there were also inadequate care plans put in place for the residents and inadequate health help with acts of daily living with the residents. And they had a medication error rate of above 5%. Those were just a few of them. And Millard Hillcrest had 8 citations. A few of them were Foley catheters being uncovered and which compromised the patient's dignity. And residents were not assessed in a timely manner, and there was a gap, a too big of gap between the first assessment of a resident and then the next one throughout days, weeks, months, whenever assessments are assigned. And it was also found that some clients were receiving inadequate nutrition and hydration through a significant weight loss. And clients were receiving excessive medications. For example, a resident who had back surgery maybe would receive they would receive their oxycodone as scheduled versus when it's actually PRN. And there were improper pain assessments documented, as in they weren't documenting the intensity and the location of where the client was having pain. And for Rose Blumkin, they only had 1 citation, which involved food preparation, and that there were some items that had unlabeled expiration dates, and there was a risk of cross-contamination. And then some improper hand washing was observed by one of the chefs only washing their hands for 7 seconds and then wiping their hands on their apron versus using the proper towel provided. And the staff ratings for St. Joe Villa, they received 4 stars, and the average amount of time in a day spent with a nurse was 25 minutes. A registered nurse was 25 minutes, and LPN was 35 minutes. Nurse aide was 2 hours and 57 minutes, and a physical therapist was 1 minute. For Hillcrest, they received 3 stars for staffing. Residents spent an average of 43 minutes with an RN every day. An LPN was 1 hour and 11 minutes. A nurse aide was 2 hours and 51 minutes, and they received on average of 8 minutes with a physical therapist in a day. At Rose Bumpkin, they received 5 stars, with the average time of being with the nurse was 58 minutes. An LPN was 1 hour and 2 minutes. And a nurse aide was 3 hours and 32 minutes, and a physical therapist was 4 minutes. Penalties seen at St. Joe Villa, there were 2 penalties that resulted in a fine of $17,000, $17,615. And Millard Hillcrest and Rose Bumpkin received 0 penalties and fines. At St. Joe Villa, there were no complaints. At Millard Hillcrest, there was 10 complaints, which resulted in a citation within the last 3 years. Rose Bumpkin, they had no complaints as well. And if I were to choose to send my family member to one of these, I would choose Rose Bumpkin because overall it seems that they have the best ratings out of all of them. It's also closer, although I don't know if we would be able to actually go to that one because no one in my family is Jewish, and I don't know if they only allow Jewish residents there or if it's just their primary faith is Judaism. But I know I would not want to send my relative to St. Joe Villa as I work in the ER, and a lot of the time when we have a resident coming in from a facility, it's St. Joe Villa. We see a lot of patients from there that are for falls, for altered mental status, and so on and so on. And Millard Hillcrest is just kind of a medium one. I picked that one because it was right in the middle between St. Joe Villa and then Rose Bumpkin. It's kind of the average of the two. But yes, this is the end of my discussion post.